Dad, when are you finally moving out of our house? Those words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I was 72 years old, sitting at my son's dinner table where I'd been living for 2 years, and he'd just asked me to leave like some tenant behind on rent. I quietly folded my napkin, stood up, and walked away. The next morning, I bought their dream house with the $89 million I'd won in the lottery, but not for them. Let me tell you how we got there, because beginnings matter. They explain everything that comes after. My name is Richard Coleman, and I'm a retired construction foreman. Built houses in Toledo, Ohio for 45 years. Started swinging a hammer when I was 18. Worked my way up to running crews and never missed a day unless I was flat on my back sick. That's the kind of man I am. Was raised to believe your word is your bond and hard work earns respect. I'd been living in my son Steve's house for exactly 2 years when he said those words. 2 years since my wife Dorothy passed away from cancer. We'd been married for 47 years. Dorothy was the kind of woman who made a house feel like home just by being in it. She'd leave little notes in my lunchbox, always had coffee ready when I got home from work, and knew exactly how to talk me down when some job site problem had me all wound up. After the funeral, Steve stood in our kitchen, the kitchen where Dorothy and I had shared thousands of meals and conversations, with his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Dad, you can't stay here alone. Come live with us." I looked around at the cabinets I'd built with my own hands, at the back porch where Dorothy and I used to sit in the evenings, at 47 years of memories, and I said yes. I should have asked more questions before I said yes. Steve's house was a decent split-level ranch in a neighborhood about 20 minutes from where I'd raised him. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, small yard that needed work. His wife, Jennifer, had decorated it in what she called contemporary style, lots of gray walls and modern furniture that looked uncomfortable. It was clean and organized. It just wasn't mine. They gave me the basement room. Finished basement, they called it, but it was still underground. Had one small window near the ceiling that looked out at ground level, so all I could see was grass and the neighbor's fence. They told me not to rearrange anything, not to hang pictures, not to make it too personal. "We want to keep it flexible," Jennifer said. "You know, in case we need it for other things." In those first months, I told myself it was temporary. Steve worked at the manufacturing plant downtown, same one where I'd gotten him his start 20 years earlier. Jennifer worked at an insurance company, handling claims. Their kids, Tyler, who was 14, and Ashley, who was 11, treated me like I was part of the furniture. Polite enough when they needed something, but mostly they just looked through me. I tried to help out where I could. Fixed the leaky faucet in their kitchen, replaced some loose boards on their deck, drove the kids to school when Steve and Jennifer were both working. I kept my mouth shut about how they were raising those kids, kept my opinions to myself about their spending habits, stayed out of their way. What I didn't say out loud was that I felt like I was disappearing, piece by piece. It happened slow, like rust eating through metal. You don't notice it until there's a hole where something solid used to be. There were signs. There was the time Jennifer had her book club over and introduced me to her friends as Steve's dad, who's staying with us temporarily. Like I was a house guest who'd forgotten to leave. There was the Sunday morning they packed up the kids and went out for breakfast without mentioning it to me. I came upstairs at 9 a.m. expecting to see the family getting ready for church, and instead found an empty house with a note on the counter that said, "Back this afternoon." But the worst was what I overheard in October, about 18 months after I'd moved in. I was coming up from the basement when I heard Jennifer's voice floating from the kitchen. She was talking to someone on the phone, her sister, I think. "He's been here almost 2 years now, Diana. We're feeding him, housing him, paying his utilities, and what exactly is he contributing?" Steve won't talk about it, but we both know this wasn't supposed to be permanent. I stood there on those basement stairs for a long moment, listening to my daughter-in-law discuss my cost-benefit ratio like I was a business expense. Then I quietly went back down to my room and closed the door very softly behind me. I want to be honest with you, I wasn't a saint during this time. I questioned myself constantly. Was I too present? Not helpful enough? Too old-fashioned in my ways? Did I take up too much space in a house that wasn't mine? I thought about Dorothy every single night, about our small house with the workshop in the garage where I'd spent countless hours building things, fixing things, creating things with my hands. That workshop had been my sanctuary. Dorothy used to bring me coffee out there on Saturday mornings, and we'd talk about our plans for the week, for the month, for our retirement years. I'd had to sell everything when I moved in with Steve. All my tools, my workbench that I'd built myself, my collection of hardware and supplies. "You won't need all that stuff anymore, Dad," Steve had said. This is supposed to be your time to relax, but I'd been working with my hands for 45 years. Taking that away from me was like asking a bird not to fly. The lottery ticket was pure accident. On a Thursday afternoon in February, I stopped at Murphy's gas station on Burn Road after my doctor's appointment. Just a routine checkup, blood pressure, cholesterol, the usual stuff they check when you hit 70. The lottery machine was right there by the register, and the guy in front of me was buying scratch-offs. "You feeling lucky today, Pops?" The clerk asked me with a grin. I wasn't feeling much of anything that day except tired, but I pulled out $2 and bought a ticket. Same numbers I'd used maybe a dozen times over the years: Dorothy's birthday, our wedding anniversary, the day Steve was born. Tucked it in my shirt pocket and forgot about it completely. I found out I'd won on a Monday morning 4 days later. I was sitting alone at Steve's kitchen table with my coffee and the newspaper, checking the weekend lottery numbers with my reading glasses. I had to check them 3 times before it sank in. Then I sat very still for about 10 minutes, looking out at their backyard, trying to wrap my head around what had just happened. $89 million. I didn't make a sound, didn't call out to anyone, just folded that ticket very carefully and slipped it into my wallet, right behind my driver's license. Then I finished my coffee and went about my day like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. I just didn't know what I was going to do about it yet. That was February. The dinner happened in March. It was a Tuesday evening, nothing special about it. Jennifer had made meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans from a can. Tyler was scrolling through his phone, like always. Ashley was going on about some drama with girls in her class. Steve was eating fast because he had some paperwork to finish after dinner. Jennifer was talking about a difficult claim at work. Some guy whose roof got damaged in a storm who was giving her trouble about the settlement. Normal family dinner. The kind I remembered having with Dorothy and Steve when he was their age, except back then we made the kids put their phones in another room and actually talk to each other. I was passing the breadbasket when Steve dropped it on me. He didn't even look up from cutting his meatloaf. Just said it, like he was commenting on the weather. "Dad, when are you finally moving out of our house? I mean, what's the actual plan here?" The whole table went quiet. Jennifer looked down at her plate, like she'd suddenly found something very interesting in her mashed potatoes. Tyler finally looked up from his phone, probably because he could feel the tension. Ashley stopped talking mid-sentence and looked back and forth between her dad and me. I looked at my son. Steve was 46 years old, starting to get some gray at his temples like I'd had at his age. He had Dorothy's eyes, but my stubborn jaw. Right then, he was looking at me like I was a math problem he couldn't solve, like I was some kind of burden he'd been carrying too long. I set down the breadbasket, folded my napkin nice and neat, pushed my chair back from the table and stood up. "Excuse me," I said quietly, and I walked away. I didn't go down to my basement room. I went outside to the backyard instead. It was cold that March evening, patches of dirty snow still melting in the corners where the sun didn't reach. I sat in one of their patio chairs that nobody ever used and looked up at the sky. 45 years I'd worked construction. 47 years I'd been married to the best woman I'd ever known. Raised a son who used to climb up on my lap when he was little and ask me to tell him stories about the houses I was building. And now that same son was asking me when I planned to leave his house like I was some kind of inconvenience. I thought about where I would go. Before that morning with the newspaper, it had been a real problem. My house with Dorothy was sold 8 months after she died. Steve had been the one to suggest it. "Dad, keeping that big place is costing you money you don't have to spend. And you're not going back there to live alone." He'd been right about the money part, but I'd sat in my truck and cried for an hour after I signed those papers. The sale had left me with about $180,000 in savings, plus my pension from the union and Social Security. Enough to live on if I was careful, not enough to buy anything decent in Toledo without wiping myself clean. At least that's what I'd thought until I checked those lottery numbers. Sitting in that cold backyard, I did some math in my head. After federal and state taxes on a lump sum payout, I'd clear somewhere around $54 million. The number was so big it didn't feel real. Like trying to imagine how far away the moon is. I sat out there for over an hour, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Dorothy's long fight with cancer, how we'd used up our savings trying every treatment the doctors recommended. The decision to sell our house to pay the medical bills that insurance wouldn't cover. Moving in with Steve because I didn't have anywhere else to go, and how that temporary arrangement had stretched into 2 years of feeling like a guest who'd overstayed his welcome. When I finally came back inside, the kitchen was cleaned up and everyone had scattered to their own rooms. No knock on my door that night. No, Dad, Are you okay? No sorry about what I said, just silence, which somehow hurt worse than the question itself. I lay awake in that basement room until almost 3 in the morning, doing the most important thinking of my life. I was scared. I'll admit that straight up. Scared of being alone at 72. Scared of making mistakes with money I'd never had before, but I was also angry, really angry for the first time in years. I kept thinking about something my old foreman used to say back when I was just starting out. Coleman, he'd tell me when I was worried about making the right call on a job, you can be afraid for about 5 minutes. After that, you're just making excuses to avoid doing what needs doing. Around 3 a.m., I got up and found a notepad and pen, started making a list the way I'd always planned construction jobs. Step 1, don't tell anyone in this house about the money. Not one word, not until I knew exactly how this was going to play out. Step 2, find a lawyer and claim that prize the right way. Step 3, find my own place. My own garage where I could set up a workshop again. My own front door with my own key. Step 4, get my self-respect back. The next morning I was up by 6, showered and dressed in my good shirt before anyone else stirred. I made coffee and sat at their kitchen table with my laptop, an old thing Steve had given me a couple years back when he upgraded. By the time Jennifer came clicking across the tile in her work heels at 7:30, I had 3 appointments booked with lawyers in Toledo. Morning, I said, pleasant as could be. She poured herself coffee and headed straight for the door without another word. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again, like I had purpose. I told Steve I had a doctor's appointment that morning. First real lie I'd told my son in probably 20 years. I figured I could live with it. The lawyer's name was Patricia Sullivan. Pat, she insisted when her secretary showed me in. A straight-talking woman in her late 50s who ran a small practice in downtown Toledo. Her office was nothing fancy, just clean and organized, the way I liked things. Mr. Coleman, she said, shaking my hand with a firm grip, you mentioned confidentiality on the phone. That means what we discuss stays in this room. Now, what's going on? I laid it out for her straight. The lottery ticket, the $89 million, my living situation with Steve and Jennifer, everything that had led up to that dinner conversation. I didn't embellish or leave anything out, just gave her the facts the way I'd always given information to building inspectors, clear and complete. Pat listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, tapping her pen against the desk. First question, she said, have you told anyone about this? Signed anything with the State Lottery Commission? No, ma'am, nobody knows. Good. In Ohio, lottery winners can claim through a trust, which keeps your name out of the public records. We'll need to set that up before you claim the prize. You'll also need a financial advisor who knows how to handle this kind of windfall. I can recommend someone. She pulled out a fresh legal pad. Now let's talk about your current situation and what you want to accomplish. Over the next hour, we mapped out a strategy. Pat would set up a revocable trust, something called the Coleman Family Trust, to claim the lottery prize. She'd recommend a financial advisor who worked with regular folks who came into money, not the kind who usually handled millionaires. And she'd help me think through the legal implications of what I was planning. Mr. Coleman, she said as we wrapped up, what you're doing isn't mean-spirited. It's smart. You're protecting yourself and making sure you have options. But once you make these moves, there's no going back. You sure you're ready for that? I thought about Steve's question at dinner, about Jennifer discussing my financial burden on the phone, about 2 years of feeling invisible in my own son's house. Yes, ma'am, I said. I'm ready. Over the next 3 weeks, I moved carefully. Met with the financial advisor Pat recommended, a guy named Chuck Davis, who'd grown up in a working family and understood people like me. Chuck walked me through the numbers, helped me understand what $54 million actually meant in terms of monthly income and long-term security. Mr. Coleman, he said during our second meeting, you can live very comfortably on the investment income alone and never touch the principal. You can buy a nice house, help your family if you choose to, and still have more money than you'll ever need. The key phrase there was, if you choose to. We set up the trust, claimed the lottery prize through Pat's office, and moved the money into accounts at a bank across town. The whole process was surprisingly straightforward once you had the right people helping you. At Steve's house, I kept the exact same routine. Same breakfast, same morning walk around the neighborhood, same quiet evenings watching TV in their living room. But inside, everything had changed. I wasn't the helpless old man living in their basement anymore. I was someone with options. Jennifer noticed the change first. She had a sharp eye for things that might affect her. Probably what made her good at her insurance job. He's been going out more during the day. I heard her tell Steve one evening I was coming up from the basement and caught the conversation from the hallway. Had some folder on the kitchen counter yesterday before he took it downstairs. Looked like legal documents, probably just updating his will or something, Steve said. Dad's always been organized about that stuff. But I could hear the curiosity in his voice. 3 days later, Steve asked me about it directly. Very casual, like he'd just thought of it. Dad, everything okay with you lately? Jennifer mentioned you've had some appointments. Nothing serious medically, I hope. I looked at my son over my morning coffee. His face was concerned, but I could see something else underneath. The same watchful look Jennifer got when she was trying to figure out if a claim was legitimate. I'm fine, Steve, I said. Just some paperwork I needed to get organized. You know how it is at my age. Always something that needs attention. He nodded and let it drop, but I noticed things after that. Jennifer started leaving her laptop open on the kitchen counter in a way that seemed accidental but wasn't. The folder I kept locked in my dresser drawer had been moved slightly. Someone had tried the combination lock. That evening, I drove to a FedEx office and made copies of every important document I had, sent them to Pat's office for safekeeping. Then I drove through the neighborhood where I'd been looking at houses. There was one place in particular that had caught my attention. A 3-bedroom ranch on Elm Street about 10 minutes from where Steve lived. Good bones, decent yard, and most importantly, a 2-car garage that I could convert into a proper workshop. The kind of place Dorothy and I might have downsized to if we'd had more time together. I'd been working with a real estate agent named Carol Martinez, a woman who worked a different part of town from Jennifer's territory. Carol was professional and discreet, understood that I wanted to keep things quiet until I was ready to make a move. Mr. Coleman, she'd told me during our last meeting, this house has been on the market for 3 months. The sellers are motivated. If you're serious about making an offer, now would be the time. I was serious. Dead serious. The offer on the house went in on a Wednesday morning. Full asking price, cash through the trust. Carol called me that afternoon while I was walking around the neighborhood. Mr. Coleman, they accepted. We're in escrow. Congratulations. I stood on the sidewalk in the March sunshine and felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Relief in 30 days, I'd have my own front door again. The shift in Steve's house was immediate after that. Jennifer started making breakfast again, something she hadn't done since my first week there. She was wearing her nice jewelry, smiling at me with what she probably thought was genuine warmth. "Morning, Richard," she'd say. She usually just grunted or ignored me entirely. Now I was getting the full treatment. Over the next week, I got invited on errands. Steve started coming home for dinner more regularly, asking my opinion on things, wanting to know what Dorothy had thought about this or that. Even Tyler brought me a candy bar one afternoon, said he remembered I'd mentioned liking peanut butter cups. It was a well-executed campaign. I had to give them credit. They'd figured out something was changing and decided to reposition themselves before I made my move. The problem was, it was about 2 years too late. 2 weeks before my closing date, Steve called a family meeting. Sunday dinner, he said. Jennifer's parents, Gary and Linda, would be there, plus her sister Diana. Just want to discuss some family matters, he told me. I knew exactly what was coming. They were going to try to manage the situation, whatever they thought the situation was. I called Pat Sullivan that Friday morning. They're going to ambush me, I told her. Try to get information. Maybe challenge my competency. Pat was quiet for a moment. You want me to prepare anything? Yes, ma'am. I think it's time to lay my cards on the table. Sunday came. Gary and Linda were already there when I arrived upstairs for dinner. Good people who'd always treated me with respect. Diana sat next to her husband, looking curious about why she'd been invited to what was usually just family dinner. We had pot roast. Small talk for about 40 minutes, weather, the kids' school activities, Gary's retirement plans. Then Jennifer made her move. I wanted to talk about something important. She began looking around the table with her serious face on. We're all family here and family should be honest with each other. She turned to me, we're concerned about Richard. Gary and Linda looked worried. Diana tried to look sympathetic. Richard has been making some significant financial decisions recently. Jennifer continued, like she was reading from a script. Large purchases, meeting with lawyers, being secretive about his affairs. We've tried to talk to him privately, but he won't discuss what's going on. She paused for dramatic effect. We think someone might be taking advantage of him. Elderly financial fraud is very common. We feel as his family, we need to step in before he makes a mistake that could hurt everyone. The table went quiet. I looked at Jennifer, then at Steve, who was studying his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out the folder Pat had prepared. I appreciate the concern, I said, keeping my voice level. Since we're being honest, let me be completely honest too. I looked around the table at Gary and Linda, at Diana, at Tyler and Ashley, who were listening from the doorway. In February of this year, I won the Ohio State Lottery. After taxes, I received approximately $54 million. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted to understand my options before making decisions. I retained a lawyer and a financial advisor. I purchased a house. Everything I've done has been legal, carefully considered, and properly documented. You could have heard a pin drop. Jennifer's face went completely blank. Steve looked up from his plate with an expression somewhere between shock and panic. I can also tell you, I continued, looking directly at Steve, that 2 weeks before I claimed that prize, I overheard a conversation where I was described as a financial burden who wasn't contributing anything to this household. I can tell you that someone went through my personal papers in my room. And I can tell you that every bit of warmth and family concern I've received in the past few weeks started exactly when it became obvious I had hired legal representation. I closed the folder and stood up. I haven't made a single decision that harms anyone at this table. My estate is properly managed, and you're provided for according to my wishes, but I'm done being treated like a problem that needs solving. Steve finally found his voice. Dad, why didn't you tell us? We're your family. Family doesn't discuss you like you're a burden, I said. Family doesn't go through your private belongings, and family sure doesn't call meetings to question your mental competency when you start acting independent. I looked at him for a long moment. When you're ready to have a real conversation, one where you treat me like the man who raised you instead of like some confused old fool, you know where to find me. I'm moving to Elm Street next week. I said goodbye to Gary and Linda, hugged Tyler and Ashley, and walked out. The next week was quiet. I moved into my new house with help from a moving company Pat recommended. 3 bedrooms, big kitchen, and that 2-car garage I'd been dreaming about. I spent my first Saturday there setting up a basic workshop, bought new tools, a good workbench, organized everything the way I liked it. Steve called me twice. The first time I let it go to voicemail. His message was different from anything I'd heard from him in years. No managing, no handling, just honest. Dad, I screwed up. I know that. I want to talk when you're ready. I'm sorry I called him back. We talked for over an hour. Real conversation for the first time in months. He apologized, and it sounded genuine. Said he'd let Jennifer take the lead on family decisions and knew that was wrong. Said he'd been uncomfortable with how things were but had dealt with it by looking away instead of speaking up. I don't want to lose you over this, Dad, he said at the end. Then don't, I said, but understand something, son. I'm not the broken-down old man sitting quietly in your basement anymore. I'm your father, and I expect to be treated with respect. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be between equals. We're working on it. Tyler and Ashley come by most Saturdays now. Tyler's fascinated by the workshop, wants to learn how to use the tools. Ashley helps me organize hardware and asks good questions about how things work. They're good kids who just needed to get to know their grandfather as something other than furniture. The money's been life-changing, I won't lie about that. But the real victory was discovering I still had some fight left in me, that I didn't have to accept being treated poorly just because someone was doing me a favor by housing me. I'm 72 years old and I learned something important. Respect isn't automatically given just because you're family. It's earned by how you treat people, and it's kept by refusing to accept anything less than dignity. If someone in your life has been making you feel like you don't matter, like your years of work and sacrifice count for nothing, remember this. You built your life with your own hands and your own sweat. Nobody gets to take that away from you, family or not. You're never too old to demand the respect you've earned, and it's never too late to stand up for yourself. What would you have done sitting at that dinner table? And when your time comes, and it will come, what are you going to do about it?